Hi, and welcome to Practical Ideas for Growth. We're excited to have this discussion today. I'm Sarah Doback, and I'm joined today by Ty Hendrickson, and we'll be discussing is your sales or BD training everything it needs to be. Ty, we're really excited to have you join us, and even more excited that you have recently joined the Innovatus Consulting team as our sales and training consultant and leader. Can you share a little bit with our audience more about your background and experience?
Absolutely. So first off, appreciate being on here. I'm super excited to join Innovatus. A little bit about myself. I'm Ty Hendrickson. I guess you would call me a recovering CPA. I passed my CPA exam years ago and decided a couple months later to ditch public accounting for sales at Wolters Kluwer. Pretty sure it's the craziest thing I've ever done, but long story short, ended up about 12 years in sales training, and sales leadership for both Wolters Kluwer and for Bloomberg B&A, and then decided that I really just wanted to marry the two worlds and bring that knowledge back to the accounting world and help accountants better understand sales and business development, and not be so scared of it, and just help firms grow in a simpler way. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're really excited to have you on board and have all of your experience. But I'm even more excited to get into our topic today because we've been having so many conversations with firms about their sales and their business development training. And I know it's such a hot topic. And one of the things we've seen is that more and more accountants are moving towards the partner level and are technically strong, but don't know how to bring in business into the firm. And this is an age-old problem, by the way, so it's not new. But I think that COVID and just some of the things that have happened in the last few years, it's risen to the top quite a bit, and we've noticed an uptick in those conversations. And so when should firms start introducing business development training to try to avoid this problem? I don't think we can, but we can try.
Oh, we can totally avoid this problem. It's easy. No, everything's easy. I think the biggest thing to understand is that you need to introduce this early, right? When they get to the partner level, even when they get to the manager level, it's tough. It's an uphill battle, right? And part of this is on their skills, but then part of it's on culture too, right? And a lot of this is that so many people have moved up into a partner role that don't have that knowledge because there's not an emphasis on culture. And I think when you introduce it early, start at the staff level, give them, career level appropriate opportunities to build those skills and to go into that it helps just build the culture as a whole, and it helps you to avoid that problem. So I don't think it's too early to start. Heck, do it with your interns. They'd love it.
Funny you should say that. I think my first firm thought I was nuts. I'm pretty sure they thought that on a regular basis. But I remember being barely out of an internship and sitting in a conference room with our first staff year people and interns talking about what we did in the firm and sharing, having our partners share. And, we even did like role playing, right? That was the first training I ever built as a young, barely 20 something into that role. But it helps, looking back on that experience. We had a lot of young people that were able in our organization at the time to feel a lot more comfortable talking about what we did. And we did all the things and brought them to networking events and shadowed and did those things, but really got them a lot more exposure. And I do think that had a big impact in just helping them see that their role wasn't just technical, that there were some of these other things that they had to learn how to do. And I do believe that with where the profession is going today, that is becoming even more critical, that from the point you bring them into the firm, you've got to start teaching them about all the things the firm can do, and their role and responsibilities is well beyond just the technical piece of it.
Yeah.
So as a follow-up, right, so we want to talk a little bit more about introducing that BD at an early career level. What are, we get this question a lot too. What are some of the things that you should have them doing? Because I think sometimes when we think about business development, it's all about bringing in business, right? Mm-hmm. Are we generating revenue? Are we meeting with referral sources? And I think that at the early career level, sometimes we we wonder, like, what should we be asking them to do? What is realistic, or what are the right things that they should be doing to help teach some of these skills that we want them to build?
Yeah, it's, you hit the nail on the head. When you think business development, you think about new clients, but there's no way for someone to go from zero to consistently finding referrals and bringing them in and selling them. And there's a lot of skills that need to be developed before that. And so when you think about the foundational skills of selling, it's really twofold. One, well, there's probably three. One, it's all based on communication, no matter what. And I think that gets so often overlooked, because when people are starting out in accounting, it's all about getting technically sound and building those skills and being able to do the work properly. And we forget about the communication. And you learn how to communicate internally and professionally. But the communication skills you need for business development are that inquisitive mindset, being able to ask questions, to be able to go deeper and build those relationships so that people trust you to talk about things, and then also for you to find new opportunities to help them, whether they're current clients or prospects. And so, I think introducing communication skills and encouraging conversation and giving staff opportunities to ask clients questions is huge, because that's where the confidence builds up. If they make it all the way to manager and have never talked to a client, can you imagine the stress they're going to have on that first conversation? So, I think that's the foundation of it. And then I think the second piece is, it takes a while to build your network. It takes a while to bring in referral sources. And so it's not like you can say, okay, I'm a manager now, I want to become partner, let's go build a network. We can't do that, right? It takes time. So at the staff level, encouraging them to get involved. I know at my first firm, one of the things they encouraged us was to get involved with the Young Professionals organization. And I loved it. And I still have so many relationships from that organization. And it's something as simple as they paid our dues. I mean, we're 22, 23 years old. We don't want to pay the couple $100s for that. They paid it and they gave us time to go do it, and they encouraged it and they supported it. And so that made a huge impact. You start building those relationships. And the key there is you're meeting people that are at the same level as you. And so as those relationships grow, they're growing, you're growing, and you'll get to the point where you have such a solid foundation that those referrals start coming naturally. And I think the other piece to that too is really giving them the ability to build on that, right? Encouraging it. And so helping them, give them the confidence to say, oh, you want to serve on a board? Let me make that connection. Giving them the opportunity to be visible in the community, even at a staff level. Like you said, it's all about knowing how to talk about your firm. They know how to do that, right? And so you don't have to be scared of what they're going to say. You don't have to be scared that they're not technical enough. You empower them with the tools to talk about the firm. And if something comes up, know who to give that to. But it's really about building confidence and giving them opportunities to just practice these building blocks of selling.
I think and I would agree, I think all of those are important. One of the things that you mentioned very early in your comment was connections, right? And building that and the communication piece of that. And I don't want to skip that, because I think that sometimes firms think that everybody should come in with that skill. And I was actually in a conversation this past weekend about this. And one of the statistics that I read or heard recently was how lonely as a society we are. And a lot of that goes to our relationships. And I think that everything digital technology is playing such a big role in that we are connected to people, but we aren't connected with them. And I think as we continue to evolve, we'll see more of that those communication skills, those relationship skills, that's what we talk about all the time as we're in relationship, that those are really important to build. And we do, in some respects, have to reinforce that, right? We do have to teach them how that's built in business and give them time, right? That's part of what takes time to build your network, is it takes time to build the relationships that go along with that.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I feel like it's such a struggle early on in your career, because you work so much and you try so hard and you're trying to build yourself up professionally. And at that level, because there's not a real BD push at a staff level, it's expected that everything should be done outside of work time and you should figure it out on your own and you should do it. And I'm not saying that it should take over everything, but understanding that that's part of the job, maybe even building in some networking as part of their review process. Their annual review process is part of their job description of what they need to be doing. Because if you're not making it a priority for them, then they're not going to make it a priority for themselves. And any of us, if you're trying to figure out, do I do the technical work that is going to maybe get me a bonus at the end of the year or get me a promotion or get me a good review, or do I do this BD stuff that they say that they want me to do? I'm going to do the stuff that might get me a bonus or might get me a promotion or whatnot. So you have to marry those two, and you really have to not just teach it, you have to encourage it, you have to provide opportunities and make sure that that's built in from the very beginning.
Yeah, you really do. And I couldn't agree more. It's a tough, kind of chicken before an egg, or how much do you give them? And each firm has to invest in some of that differently. It's kind of like training. And that brings me to sort of another question that I have for you, right? And that is, you've been doing training for quite a long time. We have, and there's lots of BD training out there. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we found is it's not something that can be taught once and then just implemented successfully, right? And I think that that's the challenge with a lot of training. So what are some ways that you can use training to build habits? Because habits is what helps us actually apply the knowledge and build that knowledge and those skills.
I mean, that hits the nail on the head. You cannot do this in 2 days, especially knowing the mindset that accountants have, like sales. No, it's scary. I can't do it. It's a lot. And so you're not just teaching people skills, you're changing a mindset, and you are having to create habits and to make that balance. And so training comes in all different forms, right? It comes in those 2-day trainings. It comes in listening to podcasts. Maybe you have a monthly recommended podcast on business development skills. Maybe you do lunch and learns every month. It's all about building in consistency and opportunities for people to learn. And it can be, like I said, something as simple as giving them access to a recommended podcast, to one-on-one coaching. If you see someone that has a lot of potential, like you said, everybody's different. Some people are going to make it all the way up to Rainmaker. Some people are just need to know how to communicate with clients, right? And so recognizing that early and coaching to that and training them, not just in formal training settings, but all throughout the year and all throughout what they're doing, is really how you're going to form habits. It has to happen all year round.
It does. And I'm so happy that you say that, because I still think that there's sometimes a perception that we're trying to make everybody a rainmaker. I have the conversation all the time. Well, there's only one rainmaker in our firm, and I need my partners to be doing more business development, or I need my managers to be doing more business development. And I don't want to disagree. I think you can build others and bring them along, but I don't think that we have a clear expectation of what the roles are. And I know because we've had so many conversations about that, we firmly believe that there are different roles, right? There's different ways to contribute to growth in an accounting firm, and it might not all look like the top rainmaker in your firm. And the biggest thing that we hear in our training programs, the biggest aha moment is, you helped us rethink what it means, right? We thought it was X, and it's really Y, and now I can see myself in this. And so how have you seen some of the other training programs in the firms that you've worked with? How do you see that play a role up in developing some of those cultures, that growth culture?
It is. It's all about figuring out what the real expectations are, because we're not all the same, right? And if you try to make everyone super technical and hit these major billable hours and have this high efficiency, right, and this high realization, you're not going to have anybody bringing in business. But to the same regard, if you try to make everybody a rainmaker that's just in business development, who's doing the work, right? So, I think part of it is understanding, look, we need to look at our firm. We need to look at what our skill set is. We need to look at who can do what and train them and coach them to their capabilities, right? Because if you do have someone that is incredibly technically savvy, that's a partner, they can still contribute to growth by supporting the rainmaker and being able to service those clients and then build the relationships and bring that client into a firm client as opposed to that partner's client, right? And that's a big, that's a big piece to this, is making sure that if you do have a rainmaker, when they retire, it doesn't just stop, right? And their clients don't go away. I mean, that's a topic for way past today.
Right. We don't have enough time for that today.
No, right. But it's, it is important to just, and when you start training earlier, right? When you start at that SAIC level, you can see people's interests, you can see people's capabilities, and you can actually figure out the correct career path for them, right? And you can train them and make them good at where they need to end up, as opposed to taking everyone along the same path. And then when they get to partner, split them up, because that's what most people do. Everybody's on the same path till you hit partner, and then you separate it out and you have different expectations. And so it's just such a smoother process. Everyone works together more cohesively, and honestly, it increases retention if you communicate their career path and they know what's expected of them and they know where they're going to go, and you're supporting them in that. Again, bigger than today, but it is about figuring out those capabilities and sending them on the right path.
Well, to bring it full circle, super simple, as you stated, right? At the beginning, really, it's not, and we know that. But Ty, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. I'm sure we could have spent an enormous more amount of time speaking to this, but thank you for joining us. And to all of you that are listening, stay tuned, because we'll have some big news in a few weeks on something new that we're releasing about this topic that we just discussed here today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.